Hey folks, welcome to the return of Traveler Tuesday. So, thanks in part to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, I've been able to start getting caught up on Mongoose 2nd Edition Traveler product. So we are going to start a series of videos here that should run for at least the next 6 weeks, including this one, covering some of the new Traveler products that I have not done flip-throughs of before. Now, a couple of these are adventures, but this one's not today. Today we're going to talk about the brand new version of the core rulebook. So this is a modest upgrade from what I understand from the existing core rulebook, which is, great because I got 2 copies of the old one. But this is the digital copy of the new one. It should be here at some point physically, but in the meantime, we have the digital version. For those who don't know, no, Mongoose is not a sponsor of the show or anything like that, nor did they provide me with this for free or any blah, 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 blah. But if you buy the physical books through the Mongoose website, you do get the PDFs for free, which is pretty handy. Now, this one's in stock. Mongoose, if you don't know, is a British company. They're based in the UK. So while they do have a US distribution point, stuff still has to get to the US distribution point. So some of their products are still en route. This, however, is already available. So you can physically buy it from Mongoose. And I haven't checked other online sellers, but most of my usual haunts for war games do not carry Traveler. So let's change the view here because I want to do that to double view. So this is the nice cover. Nothing really particularly fancy here, and we can see that it's looking like a 266-page book. Classic Traveler by Mark Miller, Mongoose Traveler developed by Matthew Sprange, and Gareth Hanrahan is the person who designed the previous edition of Mongoose Traveler. Now the differences between, so this is, let's call this Mongoose Traveler 2.1, I guess, or Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition 2022 iteration. First and second edition Mongoose Traveler have some significant differences, particularly in the character generation. This should not differ much at all from the previous edition. And in any case, in terms of adventures and ship books and things like that, there's pretty good compatibility with not only this edition of Traveler, but the previous edition of Traveler from Mongoose and the old classic Traveler, Mega Traveler stuff as well. New era GURPS Traveler, you're looking at kind of a different ball game, so you're on your own on that. So we have an introduction here. Now, there was a super brief introduction to the official Traveler universe in the previous version. A lot of that's been cut here to make space. But they do give you some campaign concepts, which is great. They give you some further reading, which of course are things that you should take a look at if you want to be into Traveler. In particular, the Traveler Companion is really useful. The various setting books, Central Supply Catalog, I would consider essential as well. Robot Handbook, I'm not sure that that's out. I'll have to check into that. I've never seen that for this edition of Traveler, but the Vehicle Handbook is out. It talks about the dice conventions that you use in Traveler. It is a D6 based game, if you don't know. Here's the breakdown of tech levels, which frankly they could have fit all on one page, but it takes 2 here. And then we get directly into Traveler creation. Now, the previous edition had, as much as I have generally very positive vibes about the previous edition of Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition. And certainly physically it is a very attractive volume, much more so than the last edition of Mongoose Traveler. But the character creation chapter was presented, I think, fairly confusingly, where some things were put kind of out of order. And there was a nominally helpful flowchart that had some flaws on it. In this case, we have sort of, here's the sample character sheet. Presumably there's one of those in the back of the book or downloadable. This is the new flowchart, and this actually I think is a bit, having looked at this already, I think this is a bit cleaner and clearer than the previous one. Now they put this sort of creating a Traveler thing that looks like a section header, but it's not because it's the bottom. That's a little weird graphic design wise, but it's fine. And they put this kind of in the right place in the chapter as well, which was not the case with the last edition. There is a hiccup, however. Let me mention that this is fully bookmarked as well, which is nice. A lot of wargame publishers that provide PDF versions of the rules do not bookmark them, and that's irritating, especially with larger or more complicated rule books. It is more common to see that with RPG stuff, as far as I can tell, but it is fully bookmarked. So, pre-career education, nothing here, as far as I've been able to see at a superficial review, has changed significantly. Here are the different careers. Now, the hiccup here is that there is, in fact, a 13... I think there's 12 of these. That sounds right. There's an additional career, the prisoner career, which is... It does have a few special rules, and it is the one thing that kind of remains out of place. Another thing that I think is a significant improvement, if you work with the PDF versions of these rules in this edition, is everything was on black pages before, which looked cool, but if you wanted to print them, you were hosed. These will print much more easily, and I think look just as nice. Here's the mustering out stuff and the career charts for the agent. So we're going to go through all the different careers here. Again, I haven't seen any changes on any of these. These are all pretty much the same. What I did for this is I actually printed out these specific pages into one PDF document that I could then pass around so that people had all the career information that they needed. And you can just do that with hit Control P and print out specific sets of pages, and it'll output it to a PDF. So here's various life events. You have a description of benefits. None of this is particularly different. You do have the British spellings on a bunch of stuff, which feels weird for Traveller, to be honest, but it's not like it's a big problem. It is 5,000 years in the future, after all. Here's the various skill packages. This is not new. This is sort of, you pick one of these as a group based on the type of campaign that you expect, and you'll kind of divvy up these skills among the characters. Talks about medical debt. You do get some sort of cursory rules for generating Aslan and Vargr characters for aliens. This could have been more complete. On the other hand, I have mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I think Traveller is very human-centric by design. Aslan and Vargr are the two major alien races in Traveller that are relatively easy to play. It is significantly more challenging to play Hivers or Kukri, for example, or Droin. And both Aslan and Vargr are relatively common throughout the Spinward area, in which a lot of Traveller campaign play has historically occurred. Not only in the Spinward Marches, but in the Trojan Reach, where there's a ton of material from various editions of Mongoose Traveller. There's a ton of material on the Trojan Reach as well. Not as much as on the Spinward Marches, but still a lot. Over the course of, the many, many years of Traveller's lifespan, that is. Here's our prisoner career, and we get, I think on the following page, where is it? There are some additional rules on the prisoner career, because you can't just decide you're going to leave. You're a prisoner, right? And that's in here somewhere. And this is actually kind of a bad sign, is that I'm paging through this and don't see it offhand. And it's not after this. It's in this chapter somewhere. So you have basically a parole rating, and you have to gradually accumulate those term after term to get out, to leave. I'm not 100% happy with the way the prisoner career works, but I really like the fact that it's possible. It's like, hey, you could be a career criminal or something like that and end up in the joint. I think that's a really cool narrative element for a character, but it can certainly feel like you are trapped in the prisoner career if you don't make the rolls for 40 years, right? And that's kind of a problem. There is an additional, about a paragraph, I've seen it, I know it's in here somewhere, of additional rules on the paragraph that describe the parole, or whatever it's called, role. And maybe we'll do another character generation walkthrough of this edition of Mongoose Traveller, so please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. Alright, so going into skills. Now, we're not going to talk about this in depth. I'm going to kind of buzz you through this. Basically, it's a 2d6 roll high system. It's relatively easy. In general, there are modifiers and things like that. But in general, you want to roll 2d6. If you roll 8 or better, you succeed. In place of large tables of modifiers, This edition and the previous edition of Mongoose Traveler Second Edition implemented a boon/bane mechanic very similar to the one in D&D 5th Edition, which is basically you roll an extra die, except it's a little more statistically conservative. Because you're normally rolling 2d6. If you have a boon die or a bane die, it's just an extra d6. It's not like an extra whole die pool, right? All right, so leafing through skills here, there's a bunch of different skills. Not an obscene number of skills. This edition of Traveler has a pretty compact skill list. Not as compact as Classic Traveler, but I think the Classic Traveler skill list feels too compact nowadays. I am really happy with where the skill selection sits. There are some additional rules for skill specialization and stuff like that in the Traveler Companion if you want more detail. And I think that stacks very nicely on top of this. So here's your combat. So combat starts on page 73. And Traveler's got a bit of an odd duck combat system. This is an iteration of the Classic Traveler combat system where you basically take damage against your stats. And that does change the modifiers from the stats too. So you have a total of 6 pages of combat rules here. Which is, compare that to Pathfinder, for example, with its, I don't know how many are in the current version of Pathfinder, but it's a lot more than 6. And then you've got a section on various environmental problems like radiation and vacuum and falling damage. Vacuum should be in here somewhere. It's under suffocation. There's some stuff for encounters, including animal encounters, but this isn't really giving us... and there's like a short alien bestiary here. Well, this isn't giving us the sort of complete animal encounter generation system that we saw in Classic Traveler, for example. And I'm not sure where that is in Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition. I'm not sure it's here at all. You can certainly, hand wave at this. This is a super brief alien bestiary of a grand total of 3 pages, actually, with 6 critters. You could totally hand wave at this to generate your own animal encounters, but I think the sense was that wasn't something that got used a lot. I'm not convinced that's an accurate statement, but certainly there are common types of Traveler campaigns that wouldn't use those types of things very much. We have here some random encounter tables, so you can use these to spark your own actions in your campaign. We have an equipment section. If you want like the definitive equipment guide, you're going to want to look at Central Supply Catalog. It's very nice. But this even says the core collection. So we've got here armor, a couple pages on that, a couple more pages on that. But this also includes like add-ons to armor that you can add, like chameleon coatings and optical assists and things like that, thruster packs. Augments, this is cyberware. This is, not something that was included in Classic Traveler because it literally predates cyberpunk, which popularized this idea inside science fiction. But the selection here is real basic. The selection in the Central Supply Catalog is substantially bigger and broader. But all the basics are in here. And the wafer jacks that feature heavily in the Mark Millar recent novel Agent of the Empire, which is pretty good, by the way, are also listed here. Communications gear, computers and software. For those who recall Classic Traveler, where the computers might weigh a ton or something like that, that has all kind of been updated in this edition of Classic Traveler. The starship computers have a close to negligible weight, and these computers are, the kind of computers we would expect to see, little hand terminals or portable machines and things like that. You can also buy software for the computers. None of this is new. Medical supplies. Generally speaking, the big upgrade here is the layout, and there's one significant addition to this edition of the rules that I will show you later. Survival gear, toolkits, melee weapons, slug throwers, energy weapons, which includes laser pistols, which is not new either, but it wasn't in the 3 little black books either. You were kind of expected to just make it up if you wanted to use laser pistols. But, kind of coming right around the same time as Star Wars, it did feel funny to a lot of people to not have laser pistols in the equipment list in Traveler, right? grenade weapons, heavy weapons, explosives, weapon options, vehicles. Okay, so here we have a, this is a new thing. Vehicle, well, part of it is new. Vehicle rules, critical hits for vehicles and stuff like that. So you do have like a couple extra pages of vehicle combat if you want to use that. Here are some sample vehicles, including air rafts and ATVs and cargo lifters. Guess where that's from? A variety of other things. We're not getting to the new thing yet. Spacecraft operations. This is, classic Traveler right here is basically what it costs to run your ship, how the jump drive works, that kind of stuff. All this is in here. Here's starship encounters, jump travel. We're not given options for different types of FTL here, but that is something that has appeared before and elsewhere. Travel times, which, sometimes you just need to know. Space combat, a couple pages on that. So I guess it's a little bit deceptive to say, oh, Traveler's only got 6 pages of combat rules, when there's, in fact, vehicle combat rules and starship combat rules that all take up about the same amount of space. So this is the new thing. This was actually not in the previous core book. And, it was a big enough book, so if they cut it for reasons of space, I guess I get it. But in terms of Traveler being sort of this complete toolkit for sci-fi campaign and universe creation, spacecraft design and construction has always been part of that, and it felt wrong to me to have left it out. Well, here it is. It's back in the core book, and it was in High Guard, but so you had it, but you had to buy a supplement for it. And the process here is going to be very familiar for anybody familiar with Classic Traveler or any previous edition of this. Certainly not as complicated as it would have been in, say, Mega Traveler or in Traveler New Era. Or Traveler 4th Edition, for that matter. So here's Common Spacecraft. So another improvement that has been made here is that the deck plans are 2D. Now, the previous edition and a lot of the supplementary materials had these sort of cool-looking but not super-duper practical 3D deck plans. They looked neat, but they were hard to use. In this case, hey, you got your Scout Courier. You can just print this page and blow it up if you want and work with it. This is a much more usable deck plan format. And I personally, if Mongoose has published, hey, here's some deck plan sets for our version of Traveler, I'd be happy to buy those. Lord knows I have enough Traveler deck plans from various versions of the game in a variety of scales, but I'd buy them if they did new ones. So here we have free traders, we have far traders, safari ships. All the basics should be covered here. We're having a little bit of scrolling issues. Here's the system defense boat, the yacht, the close escort, the lab ship, the patrol corvette, the subsidized merchant or fat trader, the survey scout. This is the Donosev class scout. It's kind of a bigger, more of a full exploration ship than just the Scout Courier, which is really a scout ship and not an exploration ship. Subsidized liner, which is, again, a pretty big ship. Mercenary cruiser, which historically was the biggest ship in the classic little black books, in the 3 little black books anyway. And then we have small craft like launches and shuttles and stuff like that. All this stuff. It's all good stuff. Here's a big section of psionics. There shouldn't be anything new here. Here's another new career. Now this one I got no problem with them putting it in a separate chapter, because fundamentally the psionic system in Travelers is not necessarily optional per se, but because it's kind of a discrete system that's not really tied much into the rest of the game, you can just leave it out and it's not gonna break anything if you don't want to use psionics in your campaign. If you do, however, you can just go to this chapter and you get the psionic the psionic career and everything. And there's 3 career tracks in there: the wild talent, the adept, and the psi warrior. Trade. If you want to read a book, a novel that I think is a really good portrayal of psionics as kind of understood in Traveler, read "The Stars My Destination" by Alfred Bester, or "The Demolished Man" is even better, actually. Here is what is this? Here's the trade table, actually. So here's our trade mechanics. That's here. world and universe creation. This is real basic, right? And I'm going to end up doing a video on Traveler world creation again that kind of talks about this at a high level. I've done some deep dives into, you know, individual world creation and stuff like that, but I want to talk about why this system works as well as it does, in my opinion. And how that is kind of a completely independent thing from the official Traveler universe, which you could, you know, use or not. Traveler has, from the very beginning, given you the tools, actual mechanisms to generate your own sci-fi universe. So some people, and I've done this too, get too hung up on the fact that there is an official universe. Well, who cares? You know, either ditch it if you don't like it, or you know, just take what you want from it. And then here's an index. It's a full index. It looks like an okay index. I haven't really dug into this yet, and then we've got some ad type stuff at the back end. So this has been a super quick look at the Traveler Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition update 2022 core book. We have more Traveler content coming. Like I said, I bought about 6 things, so we're going to be doing some detailed looks at, in a similar way to what we did here today, at least 5 of those items. The other one's an adventure, so I'm not sure I want to do a video on that because I don't want to offer spoilers, and otherwise the overview is going to be a lot of, well, look at this cool cover art, and I don't want to show you the inside. So maybe I'll do a video on the Pirates of Drenex campaign as kind of its nature as a sandbox Traveler campaign, and it's a really great campaign, by the way. So thanks for watching. Please do consider thumbs upping the video if you found this useful. If you'd like to help the channel out, please do share the videos around on social media. That's always welcomed. Please do subscribe to the channel. The more, you know, more people subscribe, the more content we can do. So if you'd like to do more to help support Ardwulf's Lair, to help out with the effort of making these videos and sometimes buying the stuff, then please do consider looking at the links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy gaming.